We want to isolate the right brain as we draw this. Now, you're going to look at these lines that you see, the image that you see on screen. Ideally, you would have it right in front of you or right to the side. But what you want to do is keep your eyes on the reference as long as possible. 99% of the time would be ideal. That means you are not looking at your paper. You're looking at the drawing, and you want to select a point somewhere where you're going to start. You're going to see me start up here, where let's call that the left front leg, and I'm going to start developing that line, and all I'm going to be focusing on is the angle, the length, and the actual shape that it begins to create. So one continuous line. Ideally, you would want to do this entire drawing without lifting your pencil. So the biggest tip, keep your eyes on your reference. Number 2, if you think you're going slow, you can always go slower. So if we finish this exercise, and I'm going to give you 20 minutes for this one, 30 minutes would be ideal. Even longer would make it more challenging. But if we finish the 20 minutes and you did not finish the drawing, that would be great. It's not a rush to finish it. The slower you go, the better you're going to understand how you're processing the information that you're seeing. Now, I'm going to give you one extra challenge. If you really want to go level 2, you would use your opposite hand, meaning I'm usually right-handed, right hand dominant. I would use my left hand to then draw these lines. That really forces the right brain to take over. For this one, I'm going to try it at least first time, right-handed, very, very slow, and you'll see it's very patient, very meditative. You may think we lost the Wi-Fi or cut off if I stay quiet, because speaking or listening to me may actually, obviously, kind of force you to use your left brain to understand the language. So quietly is an exercise that would be optimal and ideal. But of course, I'll talk you through it. I'll be kind of talking about my thought process. So here we go. I'm going to get a sense of the general space. I'm going to place down, and I'm going to begin looking at really very, very slow pace. Now, I want to get a good sense of proportions, meaning I want to make sure it fits in the paper. I want to make sure it fits in the paper, and also, let's see right there. Perfect. That we can carefully take a pause if we need to. Now, I'm doing, as of right now, I have not even looked at my paper once. I looked once when I placed the point down, and since I have not looked once. I keep my eyes, and the idea is, imagine yourself going for a walk on a trail, and you want to keep your eyes where you're going so you don't trip and fall. So that's what we're doing here. Your eyes following that line, following that trail. Every now and then, we're tempted to look at where we are. So here, I'll go back to a point. I take a quick look. But as I draw the line, notice that I'm also creating shapes, open shapes, and what we call this is negative space. So I want to begin to pay attention at the angles and at the distance of some of these lines and how they begin to create, for example, these small angles. Which way should I follow this line? That's one thought. Should I continue this direction or should I finish this area here? I'm going to go ahead and finish this area here so then we can move down. Now, I feel like I may be going a little bit too fast. So I'm going to try to slow down a little more. And when I say slow down, it means Don't jog, don't run, walk the trail. Follow it, look around. What do they say? All the roses, smell the roses. Make sure you're understanding every bit of angle, nuance, curvature. This is a really great exercise where you will feel it if you're paying attention to what it's supposed to be happening, which is you have a couple of lines that create a couple of shapes that we interpret as a thing, in this case, a horse. But we absolutely, up until this point that I used that word, I completely forgot what we were even supposed to be drawing. There is no need for us to know what the thing is. We're just focusing on the smaller parts that create the collection of things. And notice how you wander from one thought to one that takes you out of where you're supposed to be. For example, when you make a decision, a shift in direction. When you feel like a line did not come about with the kind of curvature, creating the shape, think about what was your thought process. What were you focusing on? Were you feeling the line? Were you technically also the grip that you're using? Crucial. Notice that I'm using the overhand grip, grabbing it a little bit shorter so I have a little more control over the shape of the line. But we could also begin to make this a little more gestural. So I'll point at the negative space shapes. Negative space, you know that there are within the lines, inside the lines, outside the lines. Outside the lines, I'm beginning to see these map-like shapes, sometimes triangular shapes. Here's a really good one. It absolutely shows you everything you need to see in terms of angle, length, and in the end, what you want to feel like, you're a camera registering, capturing high fidelity information. Simple information, by the way. Remember, this is a great opportunity, one of the few, where you get to slow down. Even when you think you're going slow. And I'm going to say this over and over so much that you may think it's a little annoying, but it is crucial. If you think you're going slow, I know you could go slower. Challenge yourself. How slow? And it's not just about the hand, it's about the eye. How slow can my eye follow every single detail of every single line? And that it makes it so familiar because you've walked it and you were paying attention as you walked it. Every curve becomes so easy now. Every shape, every line immediately opens up, identifies the next shape, and you become kind of like a math whiz. You know, in the movies when they show you how geniuses, mathematicians see combinations of formulas. That's what I want you to like feel when everything is like finally revealed, like whoa, and you're truly beyond just trusting it, but feeling it. And then making it your own. That's the ultimate goal. Once you can do this, you feel like you could draw anything with ease because it's a formula. And that formula Notice the thoughts. When you miss the line, miss the shape, think about why. What threw you off of the thing? Did you jog? Did you run through it? Were you really paying attention to the shape of the line? Did you miss the understanding of the negative space shape? That was the combination of them. I know we have all this area here, and I'm going to go back. So I stop here at this line that will be overlapped, but I can go back, kind of pause. There's also something magical that happens, and it has to do with breathing. Believe it or not, the way you focus on how you're breathing through, where it becomes really natural, really relaxed. Catch yourself. If you're not breathing, if you're holding your breath, that means you're maybe a little too tight. And obviously your lines will show it. And basically we're deconstructing every single aspect, every single symbol and line that make up. But when you break it down, is as simple as lines in different angles and directions at different lengths. That's it. Creating different combinations of shapes. And don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I'm going to go right here, and I'm actually focusing on the negative space shape. This little, sometimes I see them as mountains or variations of sort of mountain range. I look at it, and when I can see these easy peaks, triangle type shapes, to me they're very helpful to reveal the outer shapes. And I hope that's making sense for those of you who have not worked with negative space, that as much as I'm drawing this inner shape, that there's also shapes on the outside, what makes the space. And this is a good one right here. This shape, if you identify that on the outside of your subject, it is a absolutely crucial way to confirm what you are seeing. Going on that very, very slow walk. Can I go slower? Absolutely. Can I be just a little bit more patient? For this exercise, it is the ultimate challenge. Testing the accuracy and the patience of your instrument of observation. It is an instrument. We're testing how sharp can it be, because it's you who makes it sharp or blurry. And here I have one hiccup. My negative space shape did not match. So I'm not going to worry about it. This is a sketch where you don't want to go back and erase. Absolutely prohibited. It is not about that. It's not about, oops, they're not going to line up. It doesn't matter. What you're here is to reveal how you enjoy a nice, slow, steady, mindful walk through the trail. And that trail is your line. So notice, not a lot of straight lines here. Keeping your eyes on your reference is absolutely key. If you take your eyes off of it, notice that you lose your spot. You can lose your spot. You can lose that curve. So how you glance and come right back to that spot, and how much focus you need. I just realized I made this way too long. It doesn't matter. It's, again, that training. How you train yourself to become focused, to become strategic in seeing. It is a discipline. It is a method that obviously we all know we need to practice. And the more, not just practice, but good practice. That saying that we've heard so many times, you've probably heard me say it before, where practice makes perfect. There's actually a correction to that. Good practice makes perfect. Because practice, you could be practicing things that instead of helping you, maybe hurt you. Like if we were practicing now, but we were going super fast, not paying attention to those things that we're trying to achieve, it's practice, but it's not good practice. So the idea of good practice makes perfect. Really focusing on what kind of practice am I ready to deliver, to work on. And here's the problem where my brain just took over, and yes, I lost the proportion of it. So usually I'll use a timer. And well, yeah, that is about 25 minutes. So here's what I want to do. I am going to just flip the image over. So my reference, I could just flip it over. And now, when you're ready, it doesn't have to be now, you could just turn it around and check the result. So overall, I could feel how focused and connected really with that walk right through here. Right here when I started talking about other things, and I kind of lost it right here as I developed these lines, and a little bit of the proportion didn't come together, obviously connecting with what would have been this, the thickness of this right here. And that's fine. But overall, this is the magic. This is the power of your right brain. Remember, we were drawing this upside down the entire time. Truly, the entire time. I did not think horse once. The way I usually would think about when I am drawing a horse. So let's go ahead and label it. And I'm going to call this my 20-minute. And this is right brain upside down. You may want to date it as well. This is 4/5/22. And I always put just a little symbol, even though I would know it, that's an R for right-handed. Because if you were to do this left-handed, you are going to have such an amazing self-discovery of what you can do with lines. Okay, so there's number one. We're going to move to number two. So let's call that our warm-up. And now we're going to go to this beautiful example. Now, immediately, it tends to get just a little bit more complicated than it would need to be. I'm just sharpening a little, starting fresh with a nice sharp tip. So for this one, I want to go the rest of the class. So even slower, you're going to have way more peculiar shapes of lines here. The worst thought you could be thinking is wanting to make this perfect. Remember, this is about how you see and how your hand kind of filters the left brain out. So you can literally translate the line, the angle and the length, and the curves of the lines just as you see them. What I usually mention here, when we get to the area that makes up a bunch of little detail lines that, I'll say the word now, face and hands, you will notice something happens. So when you begin to think those thoughts, you need to step back, breathe, put that thought out of your head, because it needs to be ultra simplified. Follow the trail. These are just shapes and lines. Combination of lines creating beautiful, intricate shapes. That's all. Don't think eyes, nose, mouth, hands. Usually you'll see a difference when you get to those areas. If your left brain jumps in and tells you, "Oop, I know what that is. It's a face," that's when your lines begin to change. So you need to realize, you need to feel when that happens. That's the whole point of the exercise. And kind of take control of it. So where would you start here? And because it's upside down again, I would start at the top, work my way down, and it would obvious whether I go left or right. That's a different choice. You don't have to follow the way I do it. You need to find your way and how you would navigate that trail. Whatever makes it easier. And once again, my goal here is, can I go slower? Can I go slower? Can I keep my eyes on the line, on my reference 100% of the time? Can I glance as little as possible down on my paper? And what does it take to not lose my place? As I mentioned earlier, the optimal tip for this exercise would be to do it all in one continuous line without lifting the pencil. In my case, the color pencil. But you could also do this with an ink pen. And what it reveals, what ideally it reveals, I want you to pay attention to something else. How much pressure are you applying? Do your fingers hurt? It needs to be loose and relaxed so you can actually enjoy the walk, enjoy that trail. Realize that all we're doing is decoding angles and combination of little patterns of lines that create these very beautiful, intricate shapes. And the magic of how your brain decides to go one way or another, and how you are always in control. Or are you? It's a beautiful realization when you feel it. When you see that you can actually pause, reassess, take control, and deliver the exact shape of or type of line that your technique and only your technique will allow. Meaning, all of these beautiful different types of lines and the variations of them are infinite. But it always boils down to pretty much the same shapes of lines in variations of angles. The only thing that would make it a little bit more interesting would be the type of technique that you choose to use. So you'll notice that, okay, I'm beginning to go here, there. How do I follow? Well, it's the same as if you were out on a greenway or out on a trail. Make sure you don't get lost. Make sure you can work your way back nice without a rush. And really, really make complete sense of what's going on. So a great way to think about this is mapping it. You're basically mapping what your eye is trailing. As we go through these trails of lines, you're registering, you're mapping it. And in the end, it'll be a map for someone else to look at and find their own way. That's a beautiful way to think about it. Where you'll have beautiful, beautiful lines creating these beautiful negative space shapes as well. Do not rush. Do not rush. Keep going slow, 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 and even slower. Reconnecting. Sometimes we worry a little too much about. It's a matter, yes, of course, the proportion of our drawing. But notice that here you can be playful with it. You really want to isolate every single line, one at a time, one curve at a time. Every piece of the line completely isolated as you basically deconstruct it. Only what you need right now. And as other pieces come along, well then, that's the magic. They all come together to create this beautiful thing. Without having to worry. Generally speaking, here and there, you'll find a line where, wait, is that horizontal? I mean, is that vertical? Is there an angle to it? So you'll pause and you'll think about it. It's one of those little stumbles along the trail. So you, with caution, don't trip. Find the right angle and continue along. That's all we're doing. Figuring out angle, direction, the length, think of it as navigating, almost as if the line is taking you where you need to go, not you forcing the line in the different direction. There is a difference there, and we do tend to do that in our drawings. Sometimes the line flows, sometimes we don't realize it, but something in us forces. And I'll tell you what it is. It's the left brain. It's the symbols of the things that you have in your mind as you catalog the world. When I say a word, you can have immediate symbols that you could draw. To represent that symbol as you understand it. But remember, here, we just take a closer look at those, not even lines, just directions and angles and lengths. And obviously we're placing them as accurately as possible in the positions. Where they belong. But here, this area here, real tester to see if you're really following the trail, really looking. When you hit areas like this, with that information that we're familiar, that sometimes becomes automatic. Just automatic. Something takes over. And we rush right through, we run right through it, and end up with something that we then judge as, wait a minute, it's not exactly how I wanted it. So pacing yourself even slower, catching your breath, thinking about how you're breathing through this. It actually is a whole different level. Of just awareness of what you're doing with these lines. Combinations of all those things. Beautiful angle right here. Slow it down. Slow it down. Coming back. And as you get more and more familiar with your subjects, you'll realize that, oh wow, a lot of the information that I need to know, or that I think I need to know, it's already there. And instead of complicating it, it's much easier if you simplify it. To allow it to be what it actually is. In the same way kind of a 2-year-old would. Which is a beautiful thing because they are masters of simplification. And it is the thing that artists like Picasso would say, that is the ultimate goal, for you to be able to simplify, quiet the mind, and allow kind of these true lines to speak. Without forcing any of these decisions, walking that trail. And you thought you were in for a drawing class. I took you for a hike. But it's a nice, beautiful hike. So with my first drawing that upside down horse, I saw it was a warm-up, and you begin to see things that now become so much easier to see. It's the relationship and the connection between all other lines in order for you to maintain better proportions. Unlike the first time, this one feels much, much better, as if I had a little more control, and I feel truly I did pace myself just enough to honestly trust the lines. The other key is I kept my eyes so glued as I really made conscious decisions about every single angle of every single line. Well, we have a few more elements, a few more shapes and lines right here. I'm going to go ahead and finish all of it. And just carefully, without rushing, all the way through the end. I'm going to deliver just a few more lines here. Trying, again, keeping my eyes on the reference. And I think I got it. So was I rushing? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn that upside down as I flip this around. And there we have it. Amazing. Amazing what your brain can do when you realize that seeing it the way you're supposed to. If you can do this upside down, the next challenge would be to do it opposite hand. So in my case, it would be left-handed. You're really going to feel some struggles with that exercise. And I highly, highly recommend that you would test it out, try the opposite hand, and try making it longer, 30 minutes. And make sure you don't finish before the 30 minutes, that you have a good sense, a good pace all the way through. So this one, well, I guess it was almost 15, 20 minutes. Call it a 15-minute. This was right-handed, and same thing, upside down. Because not to forget that the way we did this should be labeled this way, because it was upside down. So it is it's a great exercise, and one that I would encourage you to try again with different time options and with that extra challenge of left-handed, right-handed if you are left-handed, left-handed if you are right-handed. And each of those times, without looking or challenging yourself to looking at the reference more and at your paper less. There we have it. Beautiful right brain exercise. I can't wait to see what you guys did.